So we're gonna do Dhyani Mudra, which is right hand, left hand. And then, so the right hand's on the bottom, the left hand just sits in it, and then the tips of the thumbs touch. Good. Go ahead and close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath. Give yourself a chance to settle on your mat. Notice any areas of tension in the body. And so the practice of cultivation and gardening, just keep your eyes closed, has a number of factors. One of my favorites is tilling the soil. And of course, there's a whole different feel for that if you're a farmer. But in a small garden, it's, you know, waking up the bed and seeing what it needs. Anybody need to be trimmed or moved or fed. There's all these things. With the cultivation of our own yoga practice, it's super multifaceted. But in terms of today's focus, I want you to be aware of the yogic balance of effort and surrender. And in our culture, we don't seem to like the word surrender very much because we think that it implies weakness. But for our purposes, it's more about yielding and softness and opening. So as you're sitting, we're not even moving yet. We're not stretching. We're not asking anything of ourselves. Just being aware of the places where you feel that you have space or where sensation is telling you there's compression and holding, any stagnation. And then surrender rather than apply your effort just now to the practice. Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't even know that was possible. Sorry about my phone ringing. And being flexible instead of crabby. Good, and so the last thing I want to do before we open our eyes and begin to move is just give you the Tibetan mantra for clarity. And it is Om Vajra Sattva Hum. So just like a plant welcomes sunlight, I want you to imagine that there's a beautiful beam of light shining down on the crown of your head, just like, you know, your life force. And open to that. And I'll just chant the mantra 3 times. And because you're not in the same room with me, it might not, well, there is someone here, but it might not feel quite the same. But imagine the vibration of this mantra. Om Vajra Sattva Hum. Om Vajra Sattva Hum. Om Vajra Sattva Hum. Let that light flow through all the pranavayus in your form and into the whole of your cellular structure, all the organs, all the systems throughout your brain. Through the whole of Annamaya Kosha, the outward physical sheath, so that you feel lit by prana. It's like your soil is warm. Warmth lends itself to flexibility. Bring your hands in the center of the chest. Take a nice deep breath in. Oh. Inhale, arms up. Open the chest. And just remain like that, arms out. Maybe the eyes are open or closed, throat open, chest open. And then take your clasp behind your back and lift the sternum a little more, lengthening the arms and getting a deeper stretch. And then from where you are, can you come gently forward with your clasp? Lift the arms a little if that doesn't strain your shoulders or your elbows or your wrists. And then come on up, release that clasp and shake your hands out and just circling through shoulders. And exaggerate this circling so that the chest moves up and down, or forward and back is kind of the feel. Yeah. And then reverse your circle, sort of like your swimming butterfly. And we're moving from shoulders rather than elbows. If I move from my elbows, the work sort of gets out of the shoulders. You know what I mean? Good. And then go ahead and let's lengthen the legs out in front of us. And pointing and flexing through your feet. Seated in Dandasana, you can push your palms down by your sides. Yeah, and so just kind of waking up the feet, alternating with ankle spins, feeling this in the knees, and it seems like when we're seated, it's largely calves, but I feel it in the hamstrings a little bit. And then let's lift the sitting bones and pull them gently back and just incline forward just a bit. We're not lifting the arms yet, or really even trying to get to our feet. We're just extending out of the sacroiliac and keeping the neck nice and long. So a soft Uttanasana, Paschimottanasana. And then begin to allow your hands to move forward, but just take care. I'm showing you this sideways, and Jessica, you can see me. Take care not to hump the upper back, but draw that chest forward gently. All through practice, I want you to breathe slow and deep, finding space and listening to your sensations. Good, and come on up. And let's go right onto our back. Inhale, arms overhead. And on the exhale, squeeze hips up in bridge pose. And then stay there for just a moment, finding your situation in the shoulders. You can draw the shoulder blades under a little bit more, keeping the knees in line with the toes. Inhale, sweep those arms up and really stretch. Flatten your back, and then open the soles of the feet, press down, sweep the arms back down to the mat as you squeeze hips up. Good, and we're holding for just a moment, just so we can really experience that press and lift. We're stretching front body there, and when we flatten back body. And then coming on up again, arms reaching down by your sides. Bring your feet more into the middle so they're towards one another. Keep squeezing the glutes, and then lift the right leg straight out from the knee. Then flex your foot and lift the right leg straight up from the hip, and then reach your arms toward it. And then check and see if you're breathing. Put the arms down, put the right foot down, squeeze the hips up again. Left foot straight out at the knee. Then flex your foot and take left leg straight up from the hip, squeeze the hips again. Lifting, reach the arms up towards your foot. And then go ahead, arms down, foot down, roll down. And then pushing both heels straight up in the air, arms overhead. So lift the hips and flatten your back. So this is Viparita Karani, I keep getting all my forward bends mixed up by name. But it's the same as Dandasana, just the plane of it has shifted. And it allows you, instead of supporting the lift of your heavy head, to broaden across the back. So nice deep breaths, and on your exhales, bringing toes towards your face. Now, the straighter the knees can get, the better. And so if your strap is something you want to use, you may, but we won't be here much longer. Good. And then bending the knees, dropping your feet to the outside edges of your mat. Bring the arms down so they're straight out from the shoulders now. And as you turn your gaze left, drop the knees to the right, back and forth in your gentle windshield wiper pose. Now, I think it's important, since I just used the word gentle, to remind you that flexibility is not just this squishy, soft practice. It's work. It takes work to do, to get deeply into a stretch. And so it doesn't mean we won't work hard during our class. Come back into the middle, cross, right ankle over left, bring your hands now down by your sides, and engage the belly as you squeeze and lift. I'm trying to like footprint my feet together up on the ceiling with as straight of legs as I can get, and instead of yanking them towards my head, I'm definitely pushing them as vertically as I can. Switch, left foot on top, and squeeze. Really engage the core body at least as much as your prime movers. I don't feel my glutes working much here at all. It's mostly the abs. So it's just this awesome engagement. Good. And then go ahead and release the feet back down to the floor. And reach your arms over your head. Walk your feet a little bit away towards the end of the mat. Take a nice deep breath in and come on up and lift. Good. And then scoot back and continue to reach. So now you are in Paschimottanasana, arms forward, full pose. And I want you to breathe your way down. Good. Yeah. Keep that chin just a little bit dropped and the neck longer than you think it needs to be. Reach through the crown of your head. Good. And then roll on up and swing your knees over to one side. And then coming into downward facing dog. And just walking through and stretching. So you've had your calf stretch in your seated forward bend. And now we are adding the thighs and adding the arms really too. When you are responsible for weight bearing, it changes how you, I'm gonna slant a little like this so I can see Jessica and you guys a little bit better. Good. Let's take right leg up in the air and then swing that right leg around in a big circle, lubricating hip joint, like 3 times to the front, switch direction, 3 times to the back. Good. Set that right leg down and let's do same left leg. So nice and high. Good. Losing my shirt. Several times forward. And same thing backward, as big of a circle as you can manage, set that foot down. Good. And let's go back to right leg high, right knee into the chest. Hi, how are you? Right leg up, right knee forward, right leg up, and right foot front. And finding your low lunge. So before you lift your arms in crescent, how are you? And remind me of your name.
My name's Marianne and Howard's coming too. Sorry we got caught in traffic.
I did too on my way. I was just on time. I was at the Ballard Bridge for over 10 minutes. It was nuts.
We came from West Seattle. So
Oh my gosh. All right. So what I want you guys is to stretch in your hip flexor on the back leg. Yeah, you can really feel it here. And then of course you got to think about balance. So tuck those thumbs in the fists. It's a super nice way to work. Mushti Mudra. And I just wiggle my arms around so that I don't feel like I'm trying to just, muscle my way through. We're doing a flexibility and stability practice together. And lift the arms up and sink maybe even deeper. Good, so very easy to hold your breath in crescent, isn't it? Yeah, how are you doing? What's going on, Jessica? Yeah, okay, a little cringe. Okay, yeah, just checking. Reach forward and let's step back to downward dog. And I'm going to give you a little break in child's pose. So pressing back and pushing through the heels of the hands as you extend your pose. Keep your neck nice and long. And then let's come sliding through. So forehead, nose, chin, chest. Lift and stretch in Cobra, Bhujangasana. Press back, Balasana. And several more times at your own pace. Paying attention to two things, the strengthening of the upper body and the stretching of the front body. And when we press back, we stretch the back body too. Yeah, good. One more time, gliding through. And lift, and let's take this to up dog by just squeezing knees. Yeah, you can do this with flat feet. Yeah, and then toes under, break that. Good, and then walking through downward facing dog. Hi, Howard.
Hi, sorry.
I understand. I was telling Marianne that I nearly made it on time because I was stuck at the Ballard Bridge for so long. Here's the left leg high. Here's the left foot front. And before you lift the arms, I want you just to go forward and back. So you're really inviting yourself to drop your center of gravity, the pelvis, low. And you're giving your front knee a chance to take responsibility and the back leg a chance to lengthen. Good. And then thumbs in fists when you come up. Yeah, take your time and warm up a little. I think that's a really good idea. So you're breathing here. Yeah, and no breath holding. Ujjayi pranayama can help you guys. So if I close your mouth and really extend the breath, and suddenly you feel kind of relaxed and balanced, I'm hoping. Arms up. Good, hanging out here. Good, reaching forward, step back to downward facing dog again, pressing with those palms, and then dropping knees, and coming back and taking your clasp or dragging your arms. So two arm options in rabbit, one is here, and one is here. So two versions, but your head is on the ground. The hips are right above the knees. So come onto the crown of the head. Make sure you're not on your forehead. Yes, and as always with this class, soft elbows and as close as your palms can be to one another. That might mean that you don't feel like you're lifting your arms quite as high as you'd like, but it protects your joints. And here we are strengthening our neck. Good, release. Make a little pillow with your hands. And so here in child's pose, I like to split my knees because I feel like it broadens my low back. And you may too. Drop your forehead down for child's pose. And then breathe like you have gills between the top of the hip and the lowest ribs. And let this breath be slow and deep. So you guys, we were talking about the cultivation of a garden and ourself in yoga practice, you know, sort of cultivating and the balance between effort and surrender and tilling the soil and all these kinds of things that I went on about for a bit. So I just want you to be aware of, in your breathing practice, the soft opening, the yielding quality of your stretching. That's what I want you to find here. Good. And then lift and draw the knees together. And I'm going to invite you to do two things that seem hard, but are fun, I think. Take your blocks. You're going to put your blocks sort of at the front of your mat and out in front of you a little bit. And so we'll use them if needed, but you don't necessarily need them, but they're there in case you do. So yeah, great. So I'll get you guys blankets and straps in a second. For starters, elbows down, interlace and protect your baby finger knuckles, and go ahead and set your head down and then lift and just practice lifting a leg and setting it down, lifting a leg and setting it down. And there's something remarkably stretchy about being able to put the head on the floor. And Jessica and Howard, I think you should walk your feet in further before you lift. It'll help you. Yeah, but can you then not put your head down? I see, okay. Yeah, so you want to adjust to where your head's actually on the ground. I was talking to Jessica for that part, but there we go. Good. Yeah, and then could we go ahead and hold one leg high? So doesn't matter which one, and getting as vertical as possible. So again, neck strengthening, pressing elbows down, forearms down, and really stretching both lifted and standing leg, and then lifted leg down, other leg up, switching, and same thing, press those elbows down, reach with that top leg, stretch the standing leg, good, and bring that foot down, return to child's pose, but this time, bringing your arms back by your feet and draping them sort of, to the sides of the leg, forehead on the ground, or on a blanket or block. Jessica, do you have a strap? Yep. Okay. Good. And then we're gonna slide through our vinyasa. So bring your hands up by the chest, look forward, lift the hips, and just slide through into cobra pose. Or upward dog if you prefer. Good. And then pressing back to downward facing dog. And then make your way to the front of the mat. Inhale, half forward bend. And then exhale, forward bend, wrapping the arms around the backs of your legs. And then turning your head no. Nodding your head yes. Good, release the arms. And sweep them up on your new breath in. Good, a little bitty back bend. And hands down into the center of the chest. Return to that clasp you just had when you were on the ground. Make your way down into your forward bend. And if you don't mind, lift your head for just a moment to see what I'm doing. And I'm circling the shoulders here. And it looks kind of weird, but see if you can try to get that little freedom. Keep the neck long, so crown of the head to the ground. Yeah, better. Keep those necks long, you guys. Better.
That's weird.
It is weird. It's like an oil deer. Good, and come on up. And keep that clasp, except switch and put your other thumb on top. Let's take our right leg and step back comfortably and Parshvottanasana. So open the chest. Here's your back bend. Take advantage of this. So find your balance. And then here's your extension. Take advantage of this and root the feet. And here's the best place to position your pelvis. So before you come forward in the forward bend part of scissors pose, you guys are down here. I'm up here because I'm looking at you. So in other words, you're here. I have to stand up sometimes so I can see you. Good, but your front knee is straight and you're not in the forward bend yet. So in other words, you have a long flat spine and bringing your arms down here. Good, keep that knee lifted. And then come into the forward bend. So then letting your head drop. Good job, keep lifting this knee a little bit more if you can, like right more than that, a little bit more. This no, not bend. Lifting, yeah, so it's towards straight. Excellent. And sweep the arms up in warrior one, which might mean that you need a little more distance and you can take the right foot back an inch or two if you do. Yeah. Good, so Howard, either lengthen through the elbows more, yes, there's this option, or there's the cactus arm option, which a lot of people really like. So it's up to you, but try not to get stuck in the upside down or in between. Good. So here we're going to dive into our standing split. So my left leg is my standing leg. My blocks are here if I want them. And I can push my blocks out so that I have a lot of length. And I can always walk my blocks back. So when I get some lift of that back leg, I can walk these blocks back in towards my foot, or I can just put my hands on the floor if I'm flexible enough. So it really is up to you. Now, standing split is not the same as warrior three, right? Warrior three, we're trying to keep the legs straight out from the hip behind us. Standing split, we're trying to float it up. So use your breath. And, you know, the strength of the standing leg, the emphasis is pretty much all on the standing leg. Yeah, those look great. And then dropping right leg back. And then just resting here in the base of scissors pose and sweeping the hips to the left and then back into line. So I'm deliberately stretching my front leg by shifting hip over and then drawing it back. And this too helps you find where does your pelvis belong in space in the two-leggeds that are square to the front. Try to keep your back heel on the floor. And try to keep that front knee straight if you can. Good, and then let's just walk over to the left. So now I'm opening up the right side. I'm pushing with the hands, dropping my head, and keeping the knees straight. Yeah. Stretch, stretch, stretch. So your breath really matters here, I think. It matters that you feel like you have space to get it in, and that you want to take advantage of the length of the exhale to release things. So relax and, you know, kind of find yourself in your pose. Good, walk back to the middle. Good, stepping back, find plank pose this time. So taking a moment to set up your plank pose. Good, and then coming forward and through into upward dog. Good, so if I am lifting the knees, I'm pressing down through the palms, but I'm dropping the hips and pulling them forward. That's upward dog. And then toes under, pressing back. Good, and then just walking to the front of your mat. And this time crossing the arms and letting the sides of the body really stretch. You started that process with that side reach in Parsvottanasana and move to the other side. So deepen your breath here. And now releasing the arms, sweeping it on up, new breath, reach back. And bring hands down into the center of the chest. Good. So planting right big toe and comfortable stance, left foot back. Try to keep remembering to switch your clasp, open the chest and pause here. So this is, when we pause, there's three parts of this pose. So when we pause in the first part, I feel like it's the ideal place to feel your feet, to feel where your hips are, to check in with the knees, and, you know, kind of parse it out. So it's like, if you don't feel balanced, where's the adjustment? Do you know what I mean? And for everybody, it's different.
Are you trying to have your hips both facing forward?
Yeah, in this pose we are. Good. And then let's come into the extension part of the pose. So here's where any adjustments with shoulders and hips can take place, flattening the spine and lengthening the neck, and looking down at your ankles, which might be wiggling for stability, you know, and just trusting that that's fine. And then as you bring your nose to knee and clasp in the air, you come into the forward bend part of the pose. Keep pressing the ball of the front foot down and keep pressing your heel down as well. Back heel. Excellent. Good. Keep on pulling right hip back, left shoulder down, and really find the length in the legs and spine. And sweeping it up on the new breath, then warrior one, which might mean once I bend my front knee, I need more length. Yeah. So lift and breathing here. Strong elbows, Howard. I'm gonna give him a button.
You can.
Strong elbows, breathing here, or cactus arms, very nice. Good, and we're gonna dive into our standing split. So go ahead and just let yourself come forward, floor or blocks. Bringing it way out in front of you lets you stretch the spine for this. But in any case, again, if you don't need to use your blocks, please just skip them. Put your hands on the floor. It's totally fine. For some people, it's just a helpful support. Good. Now, Marianne asked a question for those of you guys who aren't in the room with us, and she was wondering about the square hips in scissors. In standing split, the hips are also meant to be square, but as I'm working for the loft of the leg, I can roll my hip open a little bit, you know, and right now I'm doing that to show you. And then I can turn the knee towards the floor again. And so I'm rotating the femur in the hip socket and sort of experimenting with where my leg is. And it changes how much I can lift and stretch. Really nice job. Good, and then drop back. And so here's where I find the blocks can really help you, especially if you tend to bend your knees in Parsvottanasana or lift the back heels. So I'm pressing down, hands in, and reaching through the crown of the head. So you're getting a mighty stretch in the front hamstring and back calf, and hopefully the whole back body. And then let's walk our hands or blocks over to the right. Yeah, so if your front knee is now bending or your back heel's left the floor, try to find those adjustments. Good, and walking back into the center because I totally forgot to do our little hip stretch out to the side and back into alignment. So hips swing right, you've got a really long spine and neck. I'm often lifting my head to look at you, but you keep your neck long. Good. Yeah, and then let's go ahead and set the blocks aside and just step forward into forward bend. Inhale here, exhale, fold. Sweep the arms up over your head and hands down into the center of the chest. All right, so I'm gonna say if you have a wall and you need a wall, there's walls and bars in here. You guys have walls and furniture at home. I wanna work a little bit on dancer's pose so that we can do stretching and strengthening simultaneously. And so when we're working on Natarajasana, our dancer's pose, it's a one-legged standing balance and it's quite a quadricep stretch. So a couple things we can do. Let's plant the right foot. And so with your right hand, you can hold on to something if you like, or put your hand on your hip. And then with our left hand, gather up the ankle. So I've got my ankle. And so the work begins. So one thing to do is stretch that knee forward and back. And you can switch where you're holding on to the ankle or the foot. I often slip my thumb into my arch and make sure that my foot doesn't get crampy if I'm stretching the top of the foot. Good. Yeah. And then can we, still keeping hand on hip, move the chest forward in space, then you increase the stretch. And Marianne, if you want to hold on to something, please be my guest. Yeah, I mean, anything. You can hold on to a bar or the wall. Yeah. Now, if you want to, you can release the right arm forward and send the left foot out behind you a little bit. Come on up and open your arms and kick that foot forward. So you're finding your balance still, and then we're going to inhale arms up and dive back down to standing split.
So release that leg long behind you. And if you're using the wall or anything, it's fair game. You can start there lifting the leg and drop your arms. Good, and then soften standing knee and pull the lifted knee into the chest and set that foot down. And then let's take a little squat.
So squatting is helpful here. Do you want me to bring you a block? You can put your blanket under your heels or sit on your block if you don't want full squat. You got it. Good. So squatting is excellent just for being a good walker. A good walker and a good sitter. How can we be here with the lifted spine, open chest when the whole world squats and we sit in chairs? Also considering the lifting of the legs in standing split and the movement in the hip joint, a lot of the work goes into your back. And so here we're just kind of stretching hips and low back, strengthening legs, and then release your squat. Good. And hanging in your forward bend, this time cross the arms the other way. You'll be able to tell by the way it feels. And broaden across your back as you're breathing, letting the two arms drop further toward the floor. And lengthen your neck. And then release, sweep the arms up over your head again. Hands down into the center of the chest. So we'll plant our left foot and put our left hand on the left hip. And then taking hold of right ankle or foot and holding on to something if you need to. This is just such an excellent approach. And I can't remember where I learned it. I would give credit if I knew, or maybe I invented it in the long ago. I don't know. But you need to really reckon with where the pelvis is in space in order to feel relaxed here. You know, because otherwise you just don't. Then we're going to take the knee back in line, keeping your hips square, and release the left arm. So I'm not that deep in Natarajasana, but I'm deep enough. And I'm not holding my breath. Ujjayi pranayama if you need it. So that humming on the in breath and standing the out breath. Good, release, open the chest, try to swing that foot through and push. So you're still balanced and you're stretching, and then reaching the arms up, nice big lift, diving down into your standing split and rolling the hip open if you need more lock, and then rolling it towards the floor again, where the pose belongs. Softening standing knee, softening lifted knee and pulling it into the chest. Set your foot down. And this time we're going to come into horse. So my feet are wider. And we'll start with the inward shoulder rotation. So my elbows poking up, my shoulders rolling in. Yeah. And your hips are fairly low in space, exactly. If my hips are high, I don't get quite as much. The lower I come, I'm involving the back and the legs to the rear. You want all that. Good. Yeah. And then come on up. And let's step wide. Good. And I want you just to slide your hands down so you've got hold of your ankles, and then lift your heels and take them to the outside, and then flatten the spine. Here's your in breath. Find your straight knees if you can. So come as high up as you like. Or if holding onto your feet and having straight knees is not going to be, viable, you've got blocks to lift. So flat spine and straight legs. That's kind of what we're going for. And then drop it. So your whole emphasis in a forward bend is lengthening the spine first, legs second. And in our minds, we're always thinking about hamstrings. It's always about hamstrings, hamstrings.
Bring your attention to your back, and as you breathe, let your head get heavier, your neck get longer, the face relax more, and trust your beat and your relationship with gravity. We have a relationship with gravity that's established when we're born. Good. And then put your hands on the floor, heel toe in a little bit. Good, and let's take goddess pose. So we still have that wide stance that we have in horse, but we just lift Yana Mudra and hang out here a little. So strengthening of the legs, but unlike chair pose, which is similar in depth and sort of attitude, our wide stance makes this easier, doesn't it? I hope so. So strengthening the legs, drawing tailbone gently forward, keeping low spine long. Great. And then release. Good. And step back to the front of your mat. Standing in Tadasana, let's do some Ujjayi breath. So inhale. There's that soft humming, and exhale. Mouth is closed. Just because the mouth exhale is a cooling exhale. So we want to keep that heat. So good. And you'll notice how long the exhale is. 2 more like that. And good. Now, being audible with our breath out in the world, not on our mat, feels kind of weird. So, because we don't want to bring attention to ourselves, but when you're on your own, if you're stressed, then Ujjayi Pranayama is a good breath to do. It slows everything down. It lengthens both the inhale and the exhale, and it quiets the mind. So pranayama is deliberately about balancing the nervous system, and we do it in these brief little bites in class. So it has an effect, but we aren't hanging out in it for a super long time going, oh yeah, I get that. So I'm recommending that you take some of those off the mat and use them when you need them. Yeah? All right, plant your left big toe again and bring your hands up here. Take a nice deep breath in and lift that right leg, and then open the palms for triangle pose. So we've been doing a lot of different things with triangle pose recently. I want you to imagine, you don't hold it, but imagine that you hold the strap. And then pull back with your right arm and pull the right ribs with you. And then pull forward with your left arm and sending the hips to the right. Keep lifting the left kneecap. Howard, please bring your toes towards me. Same with you, Marianne. So your back toe should face into the front corner of your mat. So you've got a really fine 45 degrees. Good. And then come down as though you're pulling out on your strap. So I don't have my lower hand on my left shin. I've got a gentle fist because I'm holding my strap. And that fist is helping me lift my right arm higher. Good, now release the fingers and let your hand rest gently on the lower leg. And then stretch your neck by taking your gaze to the right thumb overhead, straight up from your shoulder. Really stretch the right hip here. Good. And then as if somebody has a little gentle clasp on your upper wrist, they're pulling you vertical, up, 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 up. You stretch with the right arm. And then let's reverse the pose by sweeping the left arm up, and keeping that left knee straight. So tempting to bend here because we so often reverse in warrior two. But a long diagonal line, and just keep stretching out of the left shoulder and the underside of your pose. Good, and then release that arm and sweep your hands into the chest, stepping forward. And let's drop the arms and just do 2 or 3 Ujjayi Pranayama. In the interests of cultivation, as you exhale, imagine that you send these gentle roots down into the ground. Good. Bringing hands into the center of the chest, plant that right foot and lift the left knee and then open and step gently back. I keep saying gently because I want you to be nice and light. All right, so here you're holding your imaginary strap. You've got a little soft fist and pull back with the right arm, taking your ribs with you. And then pull forward with the left arm, sending your hips back to the left. And now as you open, keeping your imaginary strap. So I've got my imaginary strap behind my back. Good. There you go, right foot. Straighten out the front foot. Yes. Nice job on those back feet. Good, and keep stretching down. And at this point, release your hands. A gentle rest on the lower shin is fine. And then take your gaze up to your upper thumb. Sometimes twisting the neck that far, it can really help you stretch, but it can make you feel like you're losing your balance. So, take your time with it and keep dropping deeper into this pose, but keeping ribs in line. Yes, no sneaking forward. Ribs in line, that's fine. So as you come forward, you're still here, but now come down. Drop that arm. See what I mean? So don't come any further forward than that and keep a slight lift. So this is the blocked. Yeah. Good job. Inhale up and open and reverse your posture. So sweep that right arm up and left arm down and push through the right big toe again. That ball of the big toe is an anchor point in yoga. It really helps. Good. And then let's take both arms overhead and step back, plank pose. Good, just hanging out here. A little breathing and strengthening. Dropping the knees, dropping the elbows, and then lifting the knees again. So now hanging out in forearm plank. And see if you can find so you want to drop the hips down in a line. Howard, if you can, so your rear's not in the air. So you're not in dolphin, but you're in this forearm plank, as flat as fine as you can get. Yeah, there you go. Good. And then go ahead and drop all the way to the floor, but press back to child's pose and just hanging out here for a moment. You can do Ujjayi Pranayama in child's pose. Good, and let's roll up. Swing the legs around to the front. Keeping the right leg straight or bending it if you want to. Taking the left foot to the outside and sitting up nice and tall. Right arm on the inhale, lifting. And then can you turn without using your arms? So the turn occurs in the body and then support your twist. Right arm, Marianne. So take the other arm. There you go. You just get more out of it. This open twist, there's nothing wrong with it. You just don't get as much out of it. The closed twist gives you a little bit more for some reason. Pregnant people use the open twist and it's super safe. You know what I mean? It doesn't squeeze their little one. Good. Unravel that Ardha Matsyendrasana and let's take Janu Shirshasana, which means head to knee. So we get this idea that our head needs to be on our knee right away, but it doesn't. So you're relaxing this left knee down and then using your biceps to bring your long spine forward. You can walk your arms forward as far as it does not hunch your back. So I might rest my fists or my forearms on the ground and, just keep that chin at a nice angle so your neck's not getting shortened. And when you take your time, the whole idea, I think, of planting a seed and helping it grow, giving it light and food and water and all that, the key element is patience. And with ourselves, it's the same. So when you demand things of the body, you'll notice that it resists. And when you invite, it tends to soften up and help you do what you want.
Are we supposed to feel it here?
Yeah, definitely. And then come on up. Good. So now my left leg is straight, my right foot is over, and you could bend this lower knee if you want to. Lift the left arm up and twist from the core body. Only then set those elbows and hands down and support your twist. And just staying here for a breath or two. And enjoying that spiraling feeling. The universe is full of spirals. And as I take pictures of plants and flowers a lot, I have a gallery, flower gallery, and there's spirals everywhere. Circular forms. Here we are, our own flower. And release. Right foot inside, coming into Janushirshasana. So I like using the strap here because I feel like it keeps the emphasis where I want it, which is on spinal extension. And Marianne was asking, do you feel it in the hip of the bent knee? And you do. So that's where your work belongs, not in trying to reach your hands to your feet. Doesn't matter if you never do. If you get the stretches in those areas, I'm happy. Taking your time. Just a slow, gentle, incremental, perhaps not visible to the outside eye, the stretch that you're getting, right? It doesn't necessarily look impressive to anybody else. It's just, how does it feel? How does it feel to you? Good, and come on up, and I'm gonna have you do wide legs and straight legs on your back and then Shavasana. So just so you know what I mean before you lie down, it's just using your strap because it helps you. I like to rest the upper arms on the ground. I'm taking, the strap will let me take the legs wider, so I'm taking a couple breaths here. And when I've had that, I'm gonna pull the feet together and take a couple breaths here, and then Shavasana. So I'm going to turn on the overhead, and I want you just to flatten your back and deepen your breath and coming towards resting pose with that gentle stretch preceding. Good. Exactly. And then once you've had your straight leg stretch, you've done a lot of prop work. I like props for flexibility, but you can just feel free to have your Shavasana without any blanket or, anything. You don't necessarily need it unless you do. So I'm going to read you this, just a fragment of a little Rumi poem that has to do with our theme. It's from a much longer poem, which, he tends to ramble. So I'm just reading these few lines. It's from The Fragile Vial by Rumi. Be a spot of ground where nothing is growing, where something might be planted, a seed possible from the absolute. And you can clear your mind in Shavasana if your mind is tending to be chatty by using Om, or you can use our mantra for this month, which is Om Vajra Sattva Hum. You can imagine white light pouring down into your form as you rest, cleansing and clearing any of the, things you've released during practice.
And surrender your effort now. Feeling the breath slow. And everything soften and drop. Om Vajra Sattva Hum. Thank yourself for being willing to set foot on the mat once again. Really feel that. All the seeds that we plant and practice, they don't necessarily come to fruition during the hour that we're moving on our mat, but hopefully they do in our life. Reach your arms over your head. Take your time to do it. And use your breath to do it. Get a nice stretch, and then roll to one side. Also taking your time and just being there for a moment. And turning towards the floor, bending your knees to help yourself come to sitting. And finding the right hand under the left with the thumbs touching. And let's say one Om together. Deep breath in. Namaste. Thank you.